Evolving with the cosmos. The cosmos is full beyond measure of elegant truths, of exquisite interrelationships, of the awesome machinery of nature. The surface of the earth is the shore of the cosmic ocean. On this shore, we've learned most of what we know. Recently, we've waded a little way out, maybe ankle deep, and the water seems inviting. Some part of our being knows this is where we came from. We long to return, and we can, because the cosmos is also within us. We're made of star stuff. We are a way for the cosmos to know itself. Carl Sagan.
Ah, thank you so much, Mary. Welcome everyone to Gems from the Wisdom Traditions, a conversation circle that is now sponsored by Still and Moving Meditation Fellowship. We are very pleased this week in our consideration of the mountain, Mauna, to have Cliff Tillotson as our presenter. And Cliff is someone who began doing some mountain climbing as a youngster in about junior high school with his his adopted uncle, his Calabash uncle in Southern California. And his uncle and his mom evidently thought he had made a lot of progress, and they let him and his older cousin at ages 14 and 16 go on a hike across the John Muir Trail that took them, I don't know, 6 or 8 weeks or something, these two boys by themselves. He has done many other mountaineering expeditions of different sorts and lots of rock climbing on rock faces. He has also been a real student of John Muir's, who just gives us such a wonderful perspective about nature itself, and is the person who discovered, for those of us who are not indigenous peoples, Yosemite Valley, where Cliff has done a lot of his mountaineering. So I hand it over now to Cliff for our conversation on the mountain Mauna.
Well, hi, everyone. Jade, I love your hat. It's pretty cool. I was thinking, at the beginning that, in the modern world, we're always so, quote, busy that we forget our connections with nature sometimes, and that we're actually one with nature. I think, as Mary was saying in that quote, that the cosmos is within us, actually. So nature is within us. And in a sense, we are actually, self-conscious facets of nature. And so nature is calling to us. It's like the call of the wild is, we all have it in us. And it's just a question of whether we listen to that call and follow it. Emerson says that about this call of the wild, he says, live in the sunshine, swim the sea, and drink the wild air. That's one of my favorite quotes. But I think all of us human beings, we're drawn to these different manifestations of nature in different ways. Some are drawn to the ocean, some to the forest, some even to the desert. But from a very early age, I've been very pulled to mountains for some reason. That quote that is in that someone asked me to provide a quote for this meeting, which says, let's see, what does it say? Whatever you can do or dream you can, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. And the quote is anonymous. The reason I share that quote is it was on a poster I had in my bedroom from I think the sixth grade on through all the way through high school, of a picture of the windswept summit of Mount Everest with that quote. And so I would read that quote every day and go, yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to have that kind of life. So I mean, I absorbed just about everything about mountaineering that you could read in the libraries of junior high and high school, and all the great stories of all these mountaineering stories. And speaking of John Muir, I mean, someone who'd really exemplified drinking the wild air. He would stand behind waterfalls to experience waterfalls. He actually rode down an avalanche, rode on top of an avalanche one time. He climbed the tallest tree he could find in Yosemite Valley during a huge storm just to experience the swaying back and forth of that tree. But one of the stories about John Muir is when he was climbing Mount Ritter in the Sierras, he got to a point where he could neither go up nor down, and his legs started to shake, what us rock climbers call sewing machine knees. And he thought he was going to fall for sure because he was just shaking. And then this tremendous calm came over him, and this ability to have this kind of like microscopic view of all the little cracks and all the little nubbins that he could put his feet on. And he actually kind of entered this different state and was able to climb out of it and make the summit of Mount Ritter. It was a great story I enjoyed as a child. But I mean, no doubt all of you probably have had some experience with mountains. Let me ask a question real quick just to test you. What is the tallest mountain in the world? I'll qualify it from base to top.
Mount Koina, the one which is, I think, considered 2/4 or one third or 1/4 is under the ocean, and the 2/4 is at the top of the sea level.
Yeah, Mauna Kea.
Mauna Kea.
Mauna Kea is over 33,000 feet, and Mauna Loa is just 125 feet shorter. And Diana lives right at the foot of these giant mountains. So I'd be very curious to hear what you have to say about the magnetic field of these just massive mountains that you live right next door to. The tallest mountain in the world from base to top that is above sea level is Denali, Mount McKinley in Alaska, which is 18,400 feet tall. The tallest mountain in the world, of course, as we all know, is Mount Everest at 29,000 and some odd feet. And Mount Everest is due to the collision of a subcontinent of India as a tectonic plate hitting the tectonic plate of Asia and causing the Himalayas to form by the pressure of India slamming into Asia. And Everest is still growing to this day, apparently. So maybe eventually it might overtop, Mauna Kea. I don't know. But there are sacred mountains throughout the world. People have had this strong drawing power to mountains throughout the world. I know Deshan, you probably have maybe experienced some of the mountains of India. There's the Mount Arunachala that drew Ramana Maharshi to it. From the age of 12, he was drawn to this mountain, and he spent his whole life either on the mountain or at the base of it, and the magnetic power of that mountain. Of course, there's Mount Kailash too, in the Himalayas, that is said to be the seat of Shiva, and it's a very, very sacred mountain. And even though it takes over 3 days to walk around it, over 24,000 pilgrims walk around that mountain every year. And the period of time is very short. From May to September is the only time where you can get a permit to walk around the mountain, but it's super sacred. Four of India's main rivers, including the Indus and the Brahmaputra and two others, all have their headwaters right at the base of Mount Kailash at the Lake Manasarova. Of course, when you think about sacred mountains, Mount Fuji of Japan, there's a Mount Agung, Agung, that when Renee and I went to Bali, realized that the people of Bali just see this mountain as so sacred. Everybody in India or in Bali reveres this mountain. Of course, there's Mount Olympus in Greece, the home of the Greek gods, Zeus and the rest of them. There's Mount Sinai in Egypt, where Moses is said to have received the Ten Commandments. There's the Mount of Beatitudes in Israel, where Jesus gave the Sermon on the Mount. There's the Mount Kazbek in the Caucasus Mountains, where Zeus chained Prometheus until Hercules freed him. There's Mount Tai, which is one of the foremost of China's 5 sacred mountains. And throughout the world, people have seen mountains as being very, very sacred. So I guess one of the questions we might entertain, in our conversation is, what is the drawing power of mountains, and how can we understand their magnetism to us human beings? And then the other question that I'm going to kind of play around with a little bit is, and why do some people, maybe the crazy ones, called mountaineers, feel compelled to climb them? And Professor Iyer once made a statement once that he says that a lot of people that are trying to climb corporate ladders, in business or whatever, you can think of the mini-series Suits, for example, with all those cutthroat lawyers. They're trying, maybe really, Professor Iyer says, they really just want to go out and climb a mountain, but somehow they get misdirected. But you might ask, even those mountaineers that risk their lives to climb these mountains, maybe really they are longing to climb a different kind of mountain, really, but they express it in this outer mountain, which is an inner mountain, that we all have a mountain within us. And it would be a mountain, say, being able to, of self-transcendence. But mountaineering really, it's drawn to, people are drawn to it because it's really an arena for self-testing. It challenges all of our inner strengths of character. It challenges us to exhibit daring and courage without tipping into recklessness, and to overcome obstacles with good judgment and inner resourcefulness, and to control and manage risk, which I think someone like Alex Honnold, the great free soloist, exhibits, to manage risk through planning, training, and adaptability. And I encourage you guys, if you ever want to watch a nail-biting documentary, to watch the one Free Solo, about Alex Honnold climbing El Capitan. But the thing about what he exemplified was not just daring per se, but an ability to bring control risk. He put a lot of time and effort into making it doable to actually climb this extremely difficult route on El Capitan without a rope, with no rope at all. I climbed the same route, but with rope and a lot of gear. But to imagine him actually climbing it without a rope is unfathomable. But he did it with such deliberateness, which to me is amazing. I attribute that to being the greatest athletic feat ever done by a human being, is that. So it's a great documentary to watch. But I just wanted to mention, in terms of this inner mountain, there's a lovely book called Mount Analog, written by a French philosopher and mystic named Renée Tillotson, about this inner mountain. And it tells a story of this group trying to find this inner mountain. First off, it's very, very difficult to find the mountain. So they all board a ship called, this name of the ship is Impossible. And they travel into the Pacific Ocean, and somehow he describes it, but through some gravitational fields, this mountain is always, for the most part, invisible to human beings. But if you do the right things, you can align yourself to actually find this mountain. And then once they get on this island where this mountain is and having to climb it, they realize that they cannot go any higher on the mountain until they find one of these jewels, which is called a paradigm. Not a paradigm, but I think it's his way of maybe saying a paradigm. A paradigm, and you have to take this jewel from up on the slopes of this mountain and bring it down to the base of the mountain and share it with others before you can go any higher on the mountain. And I think that's something that, in terms of this inner mountain that we are all challenged to climb, the only way to gain greater insight and greater wisdom is to also share it, is to bring it down and find it relatable to others. So it's this dialectic that Professor Iyer talked about a lot, and all the great philosophic and religious traditions actually talk about, of blending wisdom, because we have the gems of the wisdom traditions, blending wisdom with compassion, or being able to translate the insights, the intuitions that we have about human nature and nature as a whole, and share them with others, that they may have deeper, more elevating, more expansive sense of self and purpose in the world. One of the quotes in that book by Renée Tillotson is, Alpinism is the art of climbing mountains by confronting the greatest dangers with the greatest prudence. So what's the point? Only this: what is above knows what is below. What is below does not know what is above. There is an art to finding your way in the lower regions by the memory of what you have seen when you were higher up. When you can no longer see, you can at least still know. That's by Renée Tillotson. So that quote I started with, whatever you can do or dream you can, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it, is one of my top 5 quotes. One of my other top 5 quotes is actually by Renée Tillotson. So I'll just share that kind of in wrapping up. And that is, in trying to give, we see that we have nothing. In seeing that we have nothing, we try to give of ourselves. In trying to give of ourselves, we see that we are nothing. In seeing that we are nothing, we desire to become. In desiring to become, we begin to live. So I love that quote. It makes sense of why we want to climb these higher mountains, is so that we can be able to give more aid and comfort and guidance to those who are struggling in life. I think that's one of the purposes of trying to climb these inner mountains. And Vina came in, and I'd like to say that she lives at the base of the Sierras, right there in Fresno. I just visited her, and from her backyard, or front yard, I think, I was able to look up and see the Sierras from her yard. And the Sierras, when you think about it, there would be no rivers without mountains. And the whole, Central Valley of California is one of the great food baskets of the world. And it's due to all the water that comes to the Sierras and then flows down off of those mountains through various rivers, and then into the flatland of the Central Valley, which it also brings all that wonderful topsoil. So mountains do a lot of work for us, provide us with water and food and so forth, but they're also great places to experience the call of the wild. So I'm sure all of you have had wonderful experiences with mountains, or something to share as well. I didn't want to speak too long. So those are just some thoughts to kind of get the conversation going.
It's a wonderful start. Somewhere along the conversation, Cliff, if it seems apt, maybe you could share one or two of your mountaineering stories. So just keep that in the background as something that you might pop in as you think it's appropriate in the conversation. Does somebody have a comment or a question they want to start with? Dina.
Hi, happy birthday to Cliff. So, wonderful topic for having today. So, uh, mountains. So, when I went to the Himalayas as 18-year-old, I mean, I didn't know what to expect. I went in my flip-flops. We didn't know you got to have proper shoes. And I had sweater, no coat. It was summer, of course. June was 110 degrees down there. But we were going to the mountains. No one told us that, hey, you need to dress properly. And that was 14-kilometer hike going to Kedarnath. It wasn't like getting in the bus and get there. That was one of the most magnificent experiences of my life. Because every step felt, because it was a pilgrimage. It was not a hike. It was not a goal to be accomplished except see Shiva on the top of the mountain. And I remember that when the climbing got so hard, the altitude, no one told us altitude is bad. The sleeting, I didn't never saw snow or sleet in my life. And the hands are getting red and the stick is getting hard to hold on to it. I never prayed harder to God than that time. Can you please just take me another whatever feet it was or steps? And that was the hardest. I think the pilgrims in India, they, as you know, or even now, yesterday I watched a documentary on Mount Kailash. It's very interesting. And it said how Tibetans and the Buddhists, they don't just walk. They are doing prostrations for hundreds of kilometers they go. So my question to you is this, that did you have ever in your mountaineer experience, or anybody, other folks as well, that kind of transcendent, some kind of experience that you feel, not just simply, oh, how beautiful it is, that almost like sky opens up or the heart opens up and you see really the top of the mountain in a weird way. Not just your view is not of the world, but it's kind of a different kind of view, if that makes sense.
Well, I can share one experience from my climbing career. Is I saw as a goal for me was to climb the Solithay route on El Capitan. And so I did a lot of other climbs before I took that one on. That's the same route basically that Alex Honnold did in free solo. And it took us it took him, just a few hours to climb. It took us 5 days. So I got to kind of have an intimate experience of that massive rock of granite, I guess, cliff of granite. It's 3,000 feet tall. And I just remember, because you would get, it was a focus for 5 days. You're just absolutely one pointed for the most part the whole time in what you were doing, because it was you were in a vertical environment and anything you did wrong would have major consequences. So I just remember, I don't know, this I can still see the rock, in my eyes, just especially on this thing. You go over this one roof section, and then there's three pitches called the head wall, where it's just an expanse of golden granite. And I just remember, I can actually see the grains of that granite to this day. And so I was kind of like in some kind of different state of being a spectator, maybe, of being able to really, really see behind the veil of things to actually more essences, I think. So then when we came down from that mountain, or from El Cap, and went back down to the valley with all the tourists scurrying around and doing all their little things, it was really, really hard to relate. Because their minds, you could just tell your mind was just kind of really, really calm. really, really focused still. And everybody else seemed to have these very, very busy minds that were very kind of like petty in terms of their concerns. So it took a while to re-relate to human beings, I guess. So I had this same experience though when we went to the Shiva temple in South India for the vigil night of Shiva, and then coming back into Western civilization where I really felt everybody was relating to each other from a heart level. And whereas when we get back into, a Western society, everybody's relating to each other from a head level. So there's these different areas of consciousness that we can tap into. And so I think for me, climbing was one of those ways of entering into these other deeper ways of seeing our oneness with nature. And that one experience was of climbing the Salathe was one of those.
Renee, you're muted.
There we go. I've never climbed a mountain. I do little hikes, but you were asking about Mauna Kea, and it really, when you climb a mountain, it feels like when I do a 7 or 12-day sesshin, that you're sitting and your concentration is totally there. There's no before or after. You have to be totally present. And you were asking about the energy with Mauna Kea. That is the energy for me of Mauna Kea. There's a lake, and I can't remember the name right now, that is the pico of the world. And the lake actually shouldn't even be there, quote unquote, because there is no water going into it. But the energy of Mauna Kea is almost like when you're above and you're looking out. And even when I went into the different telescopes, I've been up at the different telescopes looking at how they're looking at the stars. There's a whole energy of opening and presence that isn't anything like I've experienced before. Well, it is like I've experienced before, but I've done it while I've been meditating. So it is the similar experience of expansive, of oneness. And Mauna Kea has so much history with spirituality, and so many forms have been used there. And Lemuria was from Mauna Kea. For me, there's a temple of Lemuria was in Mauna Kea. So there's a lot, the energy is so totally present. And I think that when you become one with nature, when you're climbing in a mountain, because nothing else can exist, it is survival, and it is just being totally present. And I think the mountains remind us, it's almost like they're grounding us into Mother Earth and moving us from head to heart and being really in the body, but not in the body. So it is for me an experience of meditation retreats, because there's nothing else there. And you're right, when I come from a meditation retreat, I have a hard time going to the grocery store. It's just so overwhelming with so much energy and so many people and stuff. And I think that's the gift of mountains and mountaineering. I actually have seen the Free Solo movie, but there's something about total presence. And when we talk about the inner mountain, there's ways that we, through meditation, prayer, or ways that we can touch into that inner mountain that we experience, that's being manifest as a bigger mountain. So I think that Mauna Kea, and when you're in the awesome presence of this energy, there's a surrendering that I feel that there's nothing else. And it is very humbling, but also very cleansing. So that's been my experience of Mauna Kea.
I knew you had good experiences of money. Thank you, Diana, so much.
Dishan, Jade?
Oh, first of all, happy birthday, Cliff. So happy to hear that.
Happy birthday, Cliff.
It's the big 7-0.
Oh, happy,
Happy
happy.
birthday.
It happens on Monday.
Oh, good.
And thank you so much for introducing us with the mountain energy and showcasing some of your journeys. And I think I've probably climbed many different mountains and I have many different stories to share. However, I'll pick one of them right now. And this was one of a beautiful hiking journey that I had done in a very early meditation journey of mine, where I was seeking a lot externally per se, and and yet my focus was inwards, but then I didn't necessarily know how, and there were a lot of questions in the mind and maybe in my soul who was trying to find answers. And after I finished the hike, I somehow found the answer. So this journey is going to help us kind of explain a bit about the climbing down, and what does it mean to come back into our social life. Same on what Diana and Cliff were trying to explain. I'm going to try to put some words to it. So we were in Taiwan, and this was one of the mountains in Taipei, which is pretty much accessible to everyone in Taipei city. And apparently, all elders, they go and hike every single morning, 6 a.m. in the morning. They go up, hike, and everybody takes different routes because mountain is pretty big and it has a lot of different entrances. So different people come at their own convenient time. They start ascending and they'll meet at the top of the mountain and get together. So me and Jade, we started our journey 6 a.m. early in the morning, and we were just very happy to go and climb the mountain, hoping to see the birds, hoping to have some good time. And I very clearly remember that on that specific day when I was hiking, I was carrying this internal question that who am I and what is my purpose? Literally, that there was that burning desire, which I didn't speak outside. However, that energy was just kind of trying to find its way to find that answer. And throughout the journey, so it was the first time we were going to that mountain in new city, and we didn't even know what was the route to take and how to go to the top. And we were just literally researching and asking people on the way out on. And just like 5 minutes down the hike, a kind person came who was perhaps 70 years old, like Cliff, who just came and said, "Where are you going? Do you need help?" And he just came and offered help, and he was talking to Jade in Mandarin, and he just like, just come with me. I'll take you along to my favorite spot. And we were happily just went along with him. And never did we know that he was apparently one of the famous Chinese astrologer who just happened to be there on that day. And he told us about his whole experiences, what he does on the mountain. So he and his friends, they go climb the mountain and they work out at top of the mountain. 70 years old, doing their bench lift top of the mountain, sharing perspectives about life. I'm like, interesting. And I was like, that is inspiring to do at 70 years old with such enthusiasm, with so flexibility and so much strength at the same time. So we spent some time with him, and then we continued towards the top of our climb of the mountain, and we got the directions how to reach to the top. And we went to the top, and we managed to come there. And what we see there is there was a group of elders who were gathered together waiting for their friends to come. And we were doing qigong at the top of the mountain so that we could just kind of get in the present moment to observe what that top of the mountain looks like and feels like. while I was holding my cushions, and I remember that my attention went to this elder couple who were brewing tea at the top of the mountain, and and we both of us had eye gaze to each other, and we were just giving a smile to each other because I couldn't speak Chinese and they couldn't share English, so we were having eye conversations. And after 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes went by, five different people came from different directions and they brought snacks, they brought food, some brought bread. And what I found fascinating was everybody brought what they could, and everybody came at whatever time they could based upon their preferences and their physical abilities. And in half an hour, there was a big community gathered at the top of the mountain, and me and Jay, we were just getting more and more curious, and they were watching us, and they were like, "Do you want to come and join with us? You want to have tea with us?" And
Yes.
both of us like, "Yes, can we please?" Because it was just we didn't know how to ask, and we just were hoping that they would just call us in some ways. And so we just went inside that community, and oh my goodness, we shared so many different cup of teas with each other, sharing different stories, different journeys that we had been on. And it was just a blissful experience of seeing how people come together and how they shared 10 different walk-off stories coming together. And in that moment, I almost forgot about what I was seeking in the moment. And what just happened? And eventually we found a way to climb back down. And I was just smilingly, happily walking down without any questions in my heart, in my mind. And when we come to the base of the mountain, we came across a home which a dog owner was trying to take pictures of his dog, literally. Like a dog was having his photo shoot in some ways. And me and Jade were trying to see like how the dog is. It was one of the cutest dog. And the dog got very curious, and in middle of the photo, the dog was trying to peek out of his side, like, who's calling me? Who's watching me? And the dog owner called him with the Chinese name, which was the sun, and apparently that is my Chinese name, which is Dishane's the sun. And my mind was just out of blown, like, how on earth can this happen? The probability of meeting something part of a nature whose name would match with yours, and it's like almost I was meeting myself right in front of me. Out of all the different possibilities, and in that moment, I came a self-realization that whole journey of the mountain, I started on the journey with a lot of seeking. In some ways, I wanted to make it happen. I want to get all my purpose and desires and things. And but at the end, once I finished that journey, it's almost like I found myself, and I could relate to the people and even the dogs, perhaps the nature, who shares the same energy among us. And of course, this understanding is evolving and ever expanding. So yeah, that's my short a bit long story.
There's a great story of in the mountains of John Muir and this dog named Stickeen. It's a great story. I really suggest everybody read it. It's just riveting. But the camaraderie between this dog and John Muir is great. And Veena, isn't it true about in the Mahabharata, Yudhishthira can't enter heaven without his dog? He refuses to. Was his dog named Dharma? I can't quite remember the story, but there's something about dogs and mountains that seems to I don't know that there's something about it. I don't know what's going on there.
Vina, do you want to share that?
I'm currently writing a paper on animal ethics, so that was mine to do this afternoon, and to that dog story in the Mahabharata, and no name. The dog has no name. And the India, I don't know what Disha know, dogs weren't considered clean. They were considered polluted because of what they eat. And the cow was holy because it was vegetarian. So, when Yudhishthira goes the last journey to the heavens, let's talk about the mountain through Himalayas, and a dog attaches himself to it. I call it himself, I don't know, or herself, to Yudhishthira. And everybody, all his siblings fall away, die, and he's alone. And the dog is following him. And when he's the only one who can reach heaven in this body, because he's such a righteous king. And he is in Mahabharata, it's an ancient Indian text. He's a very righteous Dharma king. And when he goes to the doors of heaven, and the Indra says, or the doorkeeper, you can come in, but dog cannot come in. And he says, well, if dog can't come in, I'm not going to go in. And so he said, what do you mean? Are you going to let heaven go because of a stray dog? He said, no, he's been following me for a long time. And so he said, I will not abandon this dog. Fine, I will not enter the heaven. And then the dog becomes, shows himself as a dharma. So I was analyzing it that when you were saying, Dishan, about care for the nature and the animals, what is the story? The last lesson is how to take care of those who don't have voices. Dog is not saying, protect me. Dog is not asking to go to the heaven. But I think it's very interesting that you had your own enlightenment through dog there. And John, I want to read the John Muir. What was the book that you're referring?
Oh, Sticking. It's a page turner. You will probably end up reading it in one sitting. It's riveting. It's an absolutely riveting book about this mangy little dog that just attaches himself to John Muir, and John Muir always wants to go out and do crazy stuff in nature. And he's in Alaska, and he's dealing with all these glaciers and
Ice flows and
yeah. But John Muir is a great storyteller. So yeah, you can probably get audiobook or just get the book. It's really thin little paperback, but super good story.
Thank you.
Yeah, Renee and I just went and saw the Odyssey, and there's a mangy little dog that's connected with Odysseus in that story too, huh, Renee? So there's something about dogs and these
heroes and dogs. Yeah. Jade, did you want to speak too? I see your hand is up.
Yes. Oh, thank you all so much for your wonderful stories. Really enjoyed all of them. And there's so much we can learn from mountains. I have a question for you, Cliff. And we love and cherish you and your stories. So thank you so much for sharing them. Can you share about your experience of climbing the mountain in South India? I know that mountain is very important to you and also your teacher and your teacher's teacher. I would love to hear about your journey there, and also if that kind of changed your relationship with yourself or with mountains.
Oh, thanks for the request. I mean, I'd love to share, but the main thing about Arunachala is not really to climb it, which is kind of the Western approach to mountains. It's more to circumambulate the mountain. That's the more reverential approach to a sacred mountain. So when I went to South India with our daughter first, I decided I'd do it barefoot. I'd walk around the mountain barefoot, and I didn't have very calloused feet at the time, but so we went ahead and started on the walk, and just like Ganesh removes obstacles. Ganesh also sets obstacles in front of us. And we came along, we thought we were on the trail, and there was a cow that had been tied to a tree with a rope, a long rope, and the rope was blocking the trail. And so we were like, oh, how do we get by this obstacle? And then the cow herder came and says, oh, no, no, you're going the wrong way. You're going the wrong way. Let me show you where the trail is. So I thought, it was kind of like Ganesh in two different forms pointing out the trail. And then there's all these markings with the red line, the vertical line of Shiva on these little stones. So we walked around, we did the circumambulation, and we came to a neighborhood after we came back of a very local neighborhood. And all the kids from the neighborhood came out and used our camera, taking all these pictures. And then they invited us, of course, as you know, Veena, this happens in India, to have some food with them. And the next thing you know, we're up on on the roof, being served all this food. And just the whole thing was kind of wild. And then so when I came back with Renee back to South India, and Renee and I did the same circumambulation.
This was 9 years later, I think.
9 years later. Oh, by the way, all the pictures that they took with our camera, I got their address and I mailed them all these pictures to these people. So we're coming back 9 years later, and I remember the woman who served us all the food, her husband's name, which I thought was kind of hilarious, which was Shiva Lingam. That was his name. And so that's going to stick in your head. And so we're walking down the street in the same neighborhood, and I'm going, I can't remember, Renee, which house it was, but this was definitely the street. So we see a man and woman walking up, and we go, hey, do you, so I said, the only way we're going to be able to find this house is if I use the husband's name. And so I go, do you know where Shiva Lingam lives? And they go, no, 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 no. Shiva Lingam is at the temple in the ashram. Shiva Lingam not here in the temple ashram. And we go, no, no, no. Human being. We're trying to do this like you're saying. We don't speak Tamil like you didn't speak Chinese, Deshane. No, no. We meet a human being named Shiva Lingam. And then they go, and his eyes lit up, right, Renee? And he goes, Shiva Lingam coming up the street right now. And there's a guy pulling on a bullock, pulling a cart
With a bullock.
And he's sitting in the cart, right, Renee?
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, there we are with Shiva Lingam, and he takes us to the family, and we go upstairs again to the lanai, as I call it. They serve us food, and then they bring out the photo album of all the pictures we had taken, and they talk about this. So it was quite the immersion into local Indian culture in South India. That was just so wonderful both times, how welcoming they were. So your experience at the top of the mountain, Jade and Deshane, of the camaraderie and one of Renee's favorite books, I was thinking as you were telling that story, is by Edward Bellamy, The Religion of Solidarity. But our experience with these local people in India, even with the barrier of language, is the solidarity, the brotherhood, the oneness of that we experience with these people will remain with us forever. So thank you, Jay, for asking me to tell a story about that.
Mary, yes.
Just a couple of quickies. So Hawaiians view mountains as Valakua, the realm of the gods. And the lake on Mauna Kea is Lake Waiau, which is Renee's Hawaiian name. And one of the first, growing up, born and raised in Hawaii or on Oahu, I look up at the mountains. I see Diamond Head on one side. I see the ocean. I look up and there are the ko'olaus, but they're not mountains. They're kind of, what people who have been to Everest who have been to Mount Rainier. These are little bumps. But when I was a senior in high school, I was with a chorus group and we went to Maui. And one of our excursions was a sunrise up at Haleakala. And you get there in the dark, it's cold. We grabbed whatever blankets there were from the hotel room we were staying, and we get out there and we're up above the clouds. And to see the sunrise over, coming up the valley of Haleakala that was spectacular. And then finally, I met my husband on Mother Mountain in Rainier, Washington. I had never climbed those things. I did not have proper shoes. Nope. And yeah, just a coat. I wasn't prepared. And yeah, amen.
I really wanted to ask a question from a symbolic point of view. Cliff, you mentioned about the importance of preparation for climbing really high, dangerous mountains. And I'm wondering, when we're talking about our inner mountains, that we have this, inward desire to ascend to, what are the dangers that we need to prepare for on, undergoing this inward mountain climbing? And based on whatever those dangers are, how are we to prepare?
I think we have to ask ourselves why, why would we climb the mountain, the inner mountain or the outer one, but especially the inner one. And so I think the preparation has a lot to do with motivation. There's that quote from the Buddha, to live to benefit mankind is the first step. So if we're going to try and gain some insight just for ourselves, it in the end is just going to inflate our egos, maybe, if we do gain insight. But if we try and initially work on our purposes, as Deshane was talking about, our motivations for helping others, and that to not, because there is a difference between pain and suffering. Well, we all experience pain, but a lot of suffering is unnecessary. And the more we understand how to live our lives properly in harmony with nature, the less we bring suffering upon ourselves. So I think that's what the purpose, one of the main purposes of gaining wisdom is to alleviate suffering, as the Buddha so his whole life embodied that. So I think planning, preparation has a lot to do with getting grounded in proper motivation. That's why the Gita is all about so much emphasis by Krishna on renunciation. Not anything one gains, the fruits of whatever one gains, one renounces, so that one maintains a purity of motivation.
So not just eliminate one's own suffering, but we seek that wisdom to help alleviate the suffering of all. And so I think the danger you might have mentioned is pride, or getting a sense of self-importance for having, done this tremendous climb. And is what you're saying, that if we keep this purpose in mind, that we're really doing it so that we can, like you were saying in that book, Mount Analog, nobody could climb any higher until they go back down and share something that they've gained up on a rock or something, a paradam or something, paradam. They share it, then they can ascend a little higher. So it's like this built-in check that to make sure that we're always helping others, the higher that we ascend. So that would be kind of a way of fortifying ourselves against the different dangers. Marianne?
Gosh, this was amazing experience to listen to. So I feel it's not necessary to say anything. However, I feel that this concept of the motivation of surrendering to the other is what you were just speaking about. And the other may be the mountain, this entity, this incredible spiritual place is a surrender. The drive that even the smallest everyday person has in their life has an opportunity in their moral charge there in a way to say, how can I relate to the other? And I think that crosses any of the traditions that we talk about in this group. So you need a Sherpa in most of these hikes. You need a trainer, or you need the motivation of the other. But that can drive you up the mountain and get you hurt if you don't have the other in mind, if you don't have that sense of surrender and dedication to, some other deeper connecting element. And that's where these stories of Deshawn and Jada with the tea, and you and Cliff and your daughter with the tea, were people recognizing your journey is part of your surrender to realize you did this for them as well. So it was very mind-blowing, and I'm really grateful you shared this topic. And I was on a walk I'm going to be trying to ascend to Mount Everest, and in a training walk today with people, we were all talking about the other. We were there for each other to encourage one another for their journeys to the Compostela, the Santiago walk. And you hit it right on the head. It's about everyone and the unity. And that's how we get through this. It's how we all get through it and get to the mountain together.
I think, Marianne's, one way to sum up your comments, which I really, really enjoyed, is this mysterious quote by Khalil Gibran in this week's quotes, which says, "And when you have reached the mountaintop, then you shall begin to climb." The idea that it's not getting to the top, it's how one takes the insights that one gains and brings them and shares them for the benefit of others. Like you're saying, the other. So it was beautiful ideas, Marianne, that you were sharing there.
Yeah. Just before we part, I want to give a chance, if she'd like to Carrie Gan, who is joining us from China, if she has anything that she'd like to share on this topic.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, Renee, for asking me. Actually, I think your question about inner mountain to climb is a very good question. And when I hear about this question, the first thing I thought about is that embracing challenges. As actually I am in my 30s, and this is a period of age that I might face a lot of challenges and in life and work, and I always see them in the positive way. And when I conquer every challenge, it's like climbing an inner mountain, and I will get much inner energy from the positive feedback. So I think climbing inner mountain requires us to make good preparation for life in advance and to train our spiritual strength and so on. And for the physical mountain, actually, I live in Shanghai right now. The highest mountain, it cannot be called a mountain. It's just a hill. At most 200 meters high. It's a very tiny hill. But in the area where I was born in southwest China, the landscape is a flat ground surrounded by huge mountains. The province is named the Sichuan province, and there are many famous mountains like Emei Mountain and Qingchen Mountain. One is the Qingchen Mountain is one of the origin of Taoism, and the Emei Mountain is a very important place for Buddhism. And I explored them for mainly for cultural reasons because I'm quite into Taoism. So I explored Qingchen Mountain, and it's not very far from I was born. Yeah, that's my sharing. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Carrie. Let me tell you about next week's topic. While somebody could consider giving a vote of thanks to Cliff. Next week, we have the topic of emerging from the cave. And I am imagining that someone may take up the allegory of the cave that's given by Plato. And instead of climbing up a mountain, the people who are trapped in this cave have to escape from the cave and then climb up out of the cave into the light. And then what some people do from there is very interesting. So I think this is going to be a very interesting topic. I wish I could tell you who's doing it, but I can't do that yet because I don't know. And the topic after that is going to be covered by, I think, either Skylar or Z, and it's self-surrender. Which is interesting considering many of the top comments all of you made. So is there anybody who'd like to give Cliff a vote of thanks before we part? Jade?
Mahalo nui loa, Cliff. Happy birthday. We love and cherish you. Thank you so much for generously sharing your stories, your just love for nature, and you're such a great example of taking the insights and then sharing it for the benefit of others and giving others the space to do that too. And you just shared so many incredible gems along with the other great stories from our dear friends, and love the gems of harmonizing with nature, of desiring to become is also part of desiring to give, and also the part about when you make such a deep connection with nature, coming back down, relating to the heart versus the mind. I think that resonated with a lot of people and helped people understand, oh, I'm not the only one that feels that way, and also it helps everybody here know that we have like-minded people that have had such great experiences.
And like-hearted.
Like-hearted.
Yes.
Like-hearted people.
Like-hearted people. And then lastly, about entering into nature through different ways of experiencing it. So just so many wonderful gems. Thank you so much to you and Renee. This was just so uplifting, and I'm sure even for the folks that shared their stories with mountains, it just brought back that just such a uplifting experiences in their lives too. Mahalo nui loa.
Thank you so much. And I think that I've got a volunteer with Marianne in concert with her philosopher brother, perhaps, and maybe doing next week's talk. If I got your, okay, wonderful. That's great to hear. Thank you all so much. It was really a joy and a pleasure to share it with all of you from China and from the kind of San Luis Obispo area of California, Fresno area of California. We have Diana over on the Big Island near Mauna Kea, and then the rest of it's here on Oahu. Really wonderful to come together with all of you. Thank you so much, and especially to Cliff.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
Birthday,
Mahalo.
Cliff.
Weekend.
You're an inspiration for us, Cliff. Thank you so much. Happy birthday.
Haole lahanau.
Aloha. Bye-bye.
Aloha.